Hello, everyone. I've got my longtime friend and all around awesome chick, Jess, with Defiance Health, on with me this morning. Jess, thank you for waking up and hopping on with me.
Yeah, I don't like waking up. Only for you, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, I met you, several years ago. So just so everybody understands, Jess was my original and I guess whatever I say original. This is the first person I came to for testosterone replacement therapy, amongst other things, and you still offer that now. So tell everybody, now that everybody knows how we met, kind of what you offer, what you do, and your background.
Yeah, so I am a certified physician assistant, and I've been in practice since 2013. And I started in both family medicine, and then I luckily was able to also get into kind of the hormone weight loss area of medicine. And so I did both of those for a while, and then I transitioned gradually over the years, specifically in this kind of health optimization aesthetic area. And so that's what I do full time now, and just continue to grow and expand my offerings in those things. And I'm at Defiance Health, and we have a location in Denver. We soon will probably be moving locations up there to have a bigger office, but we also are way down here in southern Colorado in Alamosa, kind of by the sand dunes. And so that was a new development. We've been here for a little over 3 years now. And we also offer some telehealth services. So primarily doing lots of blood work, lots of hormone evaluations, lots of weight loss treatment plans, aesthetics, so like, Botox fillers, but we also have an array of devices now, which I'm happy to talk about. And so just really trying to cover a broad range of health and wellness offerings for our patient base.
Well, let's actually dive into can you, if someone gives you their blood work, because this is I want to talk about everything, but the number one thing I want to hit first is, because I get this question more than anything, on the TRT, guidance, I guess. Can you, if someone gets you their blood work, if they're remote and they can give you their blood work, you can prescribe over the phone as long as how does that work? I guess if you need someone's blood work, if somebody's in Illinois, can you actually help them out, and how can you help them?
Yeah, so there are different laws and regulations state to state, and so we always have to make sure we're compliant with, where I'm licensed, where my supervising physicians are licensed, where the patient resides, and all of that. So, probably the first thing I would say is, like, if someone needs help and wants help, they can always reach out, and we will walk through their situation and determine and let them know, whether we're able to help them or we can connect them to someone who can. Because the rules are just different everywhere. We do have licensures in multiple states right now, and we'll probably continue to grow those. Colorado is not a problem at all, whether it's just purely telehealth or if they're able to come in once or twice. We have people who do fly in and establish care with us, which is awesome. We also, let's see, right now I think it's Washington, California, Arizona, Colorado. I'm trying to think if I'm missing something there. But anyway, that's what I would say is, if you're not sure, if you want some help, just reach out. We're happy to help and walk through that and make the connection.
Okay, cool. And then when people, because you have the, how would I say this? The school of thought, and a lot of this is people just kind of, hating or talking shit where, if you're on TRT or on steroids or whatever else. But the reality is, from my experience, my testosterone levels when I had first met you were around 200, 250, pretty low for my, for my age. So it was, I don't really hold back saying life changing. Getting on TRT, I was having problems with sleep. I was definitely losing muscle. I was super tired all the time. I wasn't horny at all. Nothing good. So like symptoms of what people should be looking for if they're low on, testosterone, or when should they go in and get a blood test, I guess.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I always, I feel like our male patients in particular, in the age range where these things are going to start kind of manifesting, it's a little bit of a struggle because they're typically busy working and they're not in touch with medical care often quite as much. They're not having babies and stuff like that. So they're kind of just, I feel like not as connected. And so things get written off a little bit easier. People just think, well, I'm getting older and I am working really hard and sometimes I don't sleep good. So maybe this is just how I'm supposed to feel. But the things you mentioned, being tired during the day, libido really low, sexual function maybe not as optimal as it used to be. Although I will say, not everyone has every symptom. So just because you don't have sexual dysfunction doesn't mean your hormone levels might not be low. Mood is a big one. I feel like a lot of my male patients, they just don't feel like themselves. Lower moods, or also more irritable and edgy, and they don't like that. They don't feel like they're really acting like themselves, and that can obviously cause issues interpersonally. But so energy levels, mood, body composition is one as well. So just noticing that your muscle mass is not either growing like you would expect based on what you're doing, or you feel like you're losing lean mass potentially. Sleep, gosh, there's just a wide range. The hormones, obviously, they affect every tissue in our body, and so that can manifest through any of our systems.
Yeah, and I was hitting pretty much all of those, and I've had a lot of concussions, which I'm assuming is why, and maybe it's just genetic, but I can't stress enough to people. Me working on the age of 50 now, and I think this has been. I'm trying to think, 42 maybe? I was 42 when I came and saw you, 40 or 42, I'm not sure. And it was one of those things where I was putting Band-Aids on this, where, I wouldn't sleep very well. I'd wake up, have caffeine, function kind of through the day as much as I could, drink caffeine, absurd amount
The
around.
vicious cycle.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. And then I wouldn't sleep again because I drank the caffeine. And, keep in mind, I've had people message in or whatever, because I went like many, many years without, drinking alcohol. And then I started drinking again. And then I think now I've stopped, or at least slowed down, where I only drink every few weeks or so. And people are like, oh, you probably weren't sleeping because you were drinking. And it's like, no, I wasn't drinking. I didn't drink for 20 years because alcohol has a huge effect on sleep. It was just, for me, for years, I drank, or I slept 4 to 6 hours a night, and 6 was like the most I would ever get with no drinking at all. And then you had mentioned you had explained how my growth hormones being low, sleep affects that, and that affects sleep, vicious cycle. The same thing with the testosterone. And I was down to 192, 194, which was not, I'm 220 normally. And I was just losing muscle little by little by little. One, just because of low testosterone. The other, by not having the energy of wanting to work out, right? And then, so again, all of those, not good. And then your mental clarity is just, it's fucked. It's not good. So, as I'm rambling on, do you want to talk about those things a little bit more? As well as the growth hormone and some of the other things that you guys look at, but also offer.
Right. Well, you explained it really well. Your experience is very common. And I think that it does make it challenging because all of these things sort of feed on each other, and then they just kind of start compounding. And that can also be confusing to people because they're like, I'm doing this and it's not getting better. And, they're doing one thing or the other. And I just think that lends itself to why it's so important to work with people who will spend time with you, get to know your situation, and really be able to work with you through all of these different areas that are having an impact. So, we don't just take patients in and just slap everyone on testosterone therapy. We want to talk about the situations at home, at work, What are they doing? And the exercise piece is just a whole nother thing. It's like a lot of people say that. It's like, of course I know I need the things that I need to do. I know I need to do that, but I don't have the drive, or I feel like my willpower is kind of gone where I can't get myself to go do it. And even if I did, it wouldn't really do much. I've had periods of time where I did that and nothing happened. Couldn't gain lean mass, didn't feel good. I was just more tired. And so working through all of those pillars of change rather than just, like you said, either just Band-Aids, like here, take an antidepressant because your moods are low, or take some testosterone and I'll see you in 6 months. Like that's just doing a disservice to, I think, the complexity that exists with all of these.
No, I'm glad that you brought that up because, I in context, I should have mentioned in more context, like obviously I sat down with Jess, for a while. You went over my diet, my sleep habits, did I drink? Did I do that? They went over everything. And then obviously looked at the blood work. In my case, I eat pretty dang healthy, especially in comparison to America in general. Not to get off the subject of the like the TRT or gross or whatever else, but I don't think people realize. I mean, I know sleep. People probably realize that how much that affects them, but their diet, and you cover all of that as well. The diet is just the devil for people, whether that be inflammation, sleep, gut health. But you cover that as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough area, and we have to do kind of inventory and talk to people. But like you said, it's not like that. Most of the things, it's not like you didn't know them. Like if there were things that you were off on, you knew that. Like you were very aware that you were, not eating like you normally do. And so in terms of healthy diet and stuff, I feel like you had obviously a grasp on that. So for us, that didn't have to be a huge avenue of investigation because you're intelligent and aware and know about those things. So that made that a little easier.
When you cover that, I mean, I guess when you get someone's blood work, kind of go through that process. I'm jumping around a little bit here, but go through the process of someone, you take their blood and, there's a large questionnaire that you fill out, to kind of give you guys a baseline. But what's the process look like? What are you talking to them about? And then, when I say what you offer, like if I came in and I'm 6'1" and 255, 16 to 17% body fat. My testosterone levels are at like a 350. I'm 40 years old and I'm not sleeping and I eat like shit. What does that look like? What does that conversation go like?
So the way we approach patients is, like you said, so we're going to have you fill out some paperwork because I want to get an idea of what your day is like, what your history is like, what kind of medical background do you have, conditions, medications you're taking, procedures you've had done, all of that. Like very thorough medical history, family history, lifestyle history, so nutrition, training, all of that. That gives me an idea before I even meet you or talk to you about just kind of the baseline. So that helps expedite things. Then typically we're doing body composition analysis. So weight is kind of the last thing that I look at. I want to see the balance of muscle mass versus fat mass and water weight. And we do that with our in-body scanner in the office, but we also have, we've got a promotional affiliate code with the in-body. So you can get home scales at a discount with our discount code Defiance 15. And then that will do the same thing that our in-office scale would do. And that way I get an assessment of body comp. If you're here, we get vitals, but obviously those things are important, like your blood pressure history and stuff. And then the panel. So our panel is very extensive and I continue, sometimes I add to it, sometimes I adjust it based on the individual. Everyone gets a very thorough panel, but sometimes I'll swap things out depending on, again, that medical history, if there's other things we need to look at. And so that lab panel has a huge overview of, blood counts, liver kidney function, what's the overall situation, metabolic markers like A1C, insulin, what's your blood sugars doing, cholesterol. I really like to look at advanced lipid markers like ApoB or apolipoprotein, especially again if there's a family history or personal history of cholesterol issues or cardiovascular risk. I mean, just extremely thorough, and then obviously including all of the hormones. And yeah, so there are some nutrients on there, and that can help. You mentioned kind of nutrition and those types of things. There's several nutrients on there like vitamin D, iron panel, B vitamins. I do look at some of that. There are a lot of tests available to tell you nutrient status, gut health, all of that. I have access to just this huge array of testing. I don't just recommend everyone do every testing that's available. I like data. Like I'll get my labs back for myself today. So I do like testing, but I just like for people to know that it's good to start and kind of go step by step. If you're not having any issues, not having any gut issues, hormone balance stuff, maybe a gut panel is going to be a big expense for you that doesn't really pan out to provide you any like additional benefit right now. So that person, maybe we're not going to do like a gut health panel, like a GI map or something like that. There's also advanced nutrient testing and stuff, but based on the evaluation we've already done, those things may just not be necessary, or maybe they would be helpful as our next step. So throughout this entire process, we're being very thorough. We're really looking at the entire person. We're doing comprehensive but personalized testing because, finances are a concern for a lot of people. And so you really want to get the most out of your investment and not do unnecessary testing, but at the same time, be really thorough about your investigation. And then, after that, same thing. So now we need to take all this data that we have, take your situation, lay out what are our goals for you. We want you, the things you mentioned, where you're not sleeping well, testosterone's low. So we need to figure out a plan for how we're going to start addressing that. And obviously that's individualized on the data, but that's just a whole nother consultation and planning. So there's a lot that goes into this process. And I think that's why our patients do so well and they feel so comfortable and so at home with us, because maybe they're not constantly in our office and seeing us, but they know they're very well connected and they know that we're looking at everything and we're just here to help them get an overall care. We don't take over their primary care, and our goal is just to support whatever their primary care provider is trying to do for their overall health.
So after that initial
sorry to ramble.
No, that's good.
I could just keep going.
Well, after it's easier for me because I've done it. When I say easier for me, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So I don't think you're rambling at all. And I want to make sure I don't skip over crap that because I've, obviously, seeing you for so many years. But after that, in my case, after the initial meet and greet, right, and the blood test, and I do a fairly extensive blood test just because like you said, finances are definitely something you have to take a look at. But if I guess the way I look at it, if I have the money, I have as much tested as I possibly can. Especially, I kind of make my life, my living, beating the shit out of myself. And so for me, if I was a tradesman working in the trades, the more tools I have, the more value I have. And when I look at it with my body, it's just an investment for me. And so I don't mind, I definitely probably have my blood tested even more than I really need to. It seems like some companies maybe you would do a yearly blood test and evaluation. I definitely do every 6 months, for me. Now you have to pay for
right.
that. But you prescribed testosterone and I think some Morlin to me the first time. And I think in 3 months, I came back to evaluate another blood test. So how does that go if you end up prescribing anything? If you start somebody on a nutrition plan, is the next meet and greet 90 days later and you have another blood test, or what happens there?
Yeah, so we customize that as well, just depending on the situation. But that's very typical for us. Is your next? We want to get you established on your plan and give you time to settle into that and get some results from that and kind of get that going before we test labs again. I agree with you. I do labs probably a little bit more frequently than some of the my colleagues and people I train with. They don't do labs either, like very rarely at all, or just a lot less than I do. But when I'm initially getting people started, I do like to assess and really dial in the dosing, and it just gives us time to connect and watch things change. And then later we'll space things out. So very typical would be a lab checkup after 3 months. I may see them sooner. Some of our patients will pop in on a monthly basis or halfway through just to check in or touch base. But 3 months lab until everything's pretty much stable. So we've got the dosing dialed in, feeling great. And then every 6 months seems to be a pretty good sweet spot for most people when we're not making a lot of changes to their medications.
Yeah, and I think that being honest, well, I don't think, I know being honest with Jess, if you're working with her on if you're cheating on your diet, or, men seem to like to fabricate what's going on in their mental and physical state. I would say maybe more than women. I could be wrong. I'm not a woman. Being honest about where you're at, what you're doing, not only initially, but as time goes on, is very important. On my side, and friends of mine that have messaged me, and a lot of them have ended up working with you. My initial questions when somebody I've heard you are on TRT. What's the stat? What happens, right? Like, just should I get on it? I'm like, well, fuck, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Tell me what's going on. And then I'm like, yes, you should go see a doctor. Generally, my buddy Jerry, for example, his testosterone level was under 100 as a male.
Wow.
And he was having some trouble losing weight, and I'm like, shit, Jerry, look, this is not. I mean, this is let me explain it to you. You can't sleep because your chemical levels are all effed up, and then when you wake up, you jam down caffeine. That you end up building somewhat of an immunity to, meaning it doesn't have the effect. So you drink more and more, which affects your sleep even more, and then you don't. Your body, and I'm not a doctor, but your body's not going to allow you to build muscle. Your testosterone levels have a great deal to do with your motivation level to go to the gym or to work out or to walk. And I'm probably screwing this up again because I'm not a doctor, but I'm like, dude, I promise you will be better off. He's dropped 57 pounds so far, still working on it. And he's just a better and different person. And when people ask me about this, like, well, my buddies are like, oh, you're getting on steroids. And I'm like, okay. And I get super sensitive about this, is like, okay, my buddy who said that to me originally was basically like diabetic, eating shit constantly, Twinkies and ho-hos, had to take a ton of pills basically to survive, had heart issues, had to blood thinner. I mean, all the crap he was taking. I'm like, so you're telling me it's okay to take all that to stay alive, what your doctor's prescribing you, but it's not okay to potentially take vitamin B12 shots or to be on TRT. That's bad. But the 15 pills a morning you have to take to stay alive is good. And I get it, back in the day, the stereotype of the big giant roided out super freaks and all the different stories or whatever. I mean, that's like Trinabolin and D-bol in high amounts of testosterone. That's what they were taking. When you are on TRT, you're just taking a certain amount of testosterone per week or biweekly to get you back at peak performance, or where you should actually be at your age. It's not going above and beyond so you gain. People are like, I don't want to gain too much muscle. I'm like, okay, but gaining fat's okay. Yeah, you're okay being fat or whatever, but you're not okay being really at the peak performance where you should be. And again, I get a little bit sensitive over it because I know how many dudes, and I'm just like this black and white. I'm saying from 35 to 50, but genetically you have low test, when you're 20, right? Or when you're 30, it just depends on your genetics. But just, I guess what I'm saying is don't like poo poo on, TRT until you research, learn about it, and understand it. Cause to me, it's far better to potentially get on something like TRT if you need it. And not just that, it also the diet and nutrition plan. You'll spend X amount of dollars on alcohol a day, but God forbid you pay a nutritionist to help you with your diet. And that's just America in general.
Gosh, I mean, this is like, I feel like we could go way too long on this exact topic. It's hard to know where to even touch on because you're 100% right. And it's the same thing that's occurring with patients on getting on the injectable weight loss medications right now. Like it's just all over the internet, and you've got people just saying all kinds of things and just being very judgmental and making claims. And it's kind of crazy. Humans are pretty wild, but first of all, I just don't think people should be commenting on what other people are doing. Like you said, it's like, here's what I'm hearing. This is what I did. I would suggest you talk to an expert. That's perfect. But, imposing your opinions on them about, testosterone. Yes, it is a steroid. Do you know what other steroids are? Like, what do you know about steroids? You can kind of shut down conversations like that pretty quickly, usually, because you find out quickly they don't really know exactly what they're talking about. They're just making these judgments. And, it's like, I'm on an array of pills, but if one of them is a hormone, then oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So it's crazy to me. It's crazy. I think a lot of people are finding though that we want to start working on root cause issues. If the hormones are deficient, they need to be replaced. We do that with all hormones when they're not where they should be. It's nothing, it's nothing new. This is what we do. You supplement things that you don't have enough of. Are there root causes? That gets asked a lot because people want to know, well, why is it low? Because, I'd rather fix that. Is there a way to, is taking testosterone going to fix my levels? Like, will I be able to come off of it and things like that? That's other conversations as well. But right now, that's just sort of new investigations and research right now, like chemicals and xenoestrogens and all these things that we're being exposed to that potentially are related to the low testosterone. But my job as a provider is to look at the person that's sitting there and live in reality with them. So if they have low testosterone, they have all these symptoms, me being like, yeah, come on, let's start training. And some people, that's great. And it works and we get them moving and we change body comp. But a lot of people, they're not there. Telling them to do that is going to do nothing. And nobody's fixing the problem. But if I balance hormones, if we address nutrient issues, if we start working on lifestyle, we add in some hormone stuff, then we start to create this picture where they're moving in the right direction again. So to demonize hormones like that, or, it's very short-sighted, tunnel vision, living in the past. Like, join us in the future here where we're learning lots of things.
Yeah, and I think that, and again, we could go on and on about this, but I'm sure that some of the food that we take in, when I say sure, I'm relatively sure that most of the shit you read when there's 97 ingredients, a lot of that is bad for you. Like, there's no doubt, right? When you go grab, I don't know, you grab a tomato and the ingredients is tomato, right? That's pretty simple. That's probably good for you. When you grab something processed, then it has 62 ingredients on it, and you can leave it out for 7 years and eat it and it's fine. Yeah, there's probably some stuff in there that's really bad, and that probably is affecting, it could be your testosterone. It's probably could potentially give you cancer in the long run. I mean, there's a lot of things there. The thing that I try to explain to people is like, more than most likely, whether it's testosterone or not or whatever, is that if that gets you the push to diet, because you just need that mental little push over that first speed bump to get going, right? It's hard to just go to the gym when you've never been, or if you've been eating unhealthy a long time. Um, a lot of times it's a domino effect and the other things will fall. And when I say that, meaning if you got on TRT or something like that, then that's going to give you like a mental, whether you before you take it, like this is going to work. And then you take it and you do feel better, you do sleep better, and then you're seeing some results. And then it's like, I really need to crack down on my diet. And then boom, your diet's getting better. And then that makes you study and learn more. And when I say it's not that hard to study about how to eat healthy, but that might make you learn more as well as give you the ambition and dedication to push farther. And then next thing you know, you're on extremely clean diet. You've went from 260 to 205 or whatever the case may be. You're not spending money on a bunch of dumb shit and you're spending it on blood tests and you're spending it on healthier food. And then next thing you know, you're like, my mental clarity is awesome. And I'm not shitting my pants every Friday because I ate greasy food. And I mean, all things get better. And I mean, you're laughing. These are the conversations I have with people where guys are like, explaining things to me. And I'm like, yeah.
I just love when people are not shitting their pants. Like that's a great success.
Well, and okay, this is a funny story. I am not very good at folding laundry and like just kind of as a joke had mentioned to a few of my friends, I'm like, can I pay one of you guys to fold my clothes or something? And, like I need a maid. And a few of the women were like, oh, we don't fold underwear as a joke. And I'm like, because they're around, my twig and berries or what? And like, oh, we don't do like stains in the undies. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, brown stains. And I'm like, I don't have brown stains. And I'm like, what the fuck is your husband doing? Like brown stains? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I don't have brown stains in my undies. So then
it's okay.
Well, no, I mean, believe me, I'm one guy that will tell you anything, even the things you don't want to hear about with me. And so I was like, what the hell are you eating? And then it got into a diet and nutrition conversation, all for me being lazy and wanting to fold my laundry. And then now, because I'm me and I'm inquisitive, I'm asking multiple people, friends of mine, like, do you like go to fart and shit your pants? Because I've never had that happen. And then I'm finding out because of the diet and gut health and what that is not uncommon. And I'm like, so you have a leaky butt. Okay, so what are you eating, right? Like, holy cow, what's going on here? And then, you break into that conversation about like the brass tacks of diet and nutrition. And at the root of it, yeah, calories in, calories out, that makes sense. But like what you're taking in, it isn't just about diet. It's also about mental health, mental clarity. It's also about how your stomach feels, and everything else.
Connected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm
rambling.
I
was just going to say that those are like these sensitive things that I'm laughing with you because you always make me laugh, of course. But like, those are things that are very important and people usually don't bring up because we don't know. Like, is this normal? Do other people do? I have no idea. So I always want people to be comfortable. People have shared so many things that were unexpected, but they're sensitive things and they're affecting their life. So I do hope you need a provider that you feel comfortable sharing that stuff with and takes you seriously. And like, I'm not going to laugh about that. I'm laughing because I'm talking to you, but
yeah, but you can always laugh at me.
Those are big deals.
No, they are.
And we deal with lots of stuff like that.
Well, and I mean, yeah, you and I, we're friends, so it's a little bit different. You can laugh at me all the time. The other thing with men that they have trouble talking about, like specifically, is when they're not horny, right? It's like the man card is taken away. And a lot of my friends and people who've reached out to me is like, man, my wife doesn't think I'm attracted to her and I'm just not horny and it's affecting my marriage. That's off the subject of diet. And I'm like, dude, go get your blood tested. Like, go get your blood tested. Like, just the only problem that I've run into that is I'm not going to poo-poo on primary care providers, too much, or I shouldn't say primary care providers. The general medical system is somewhat flawed sometimes, depending upon your primary care provider, meaning I've had guys
Yes.
come to me that are 38 and their testosterone's hovering around 250, and their primary care provider is like, "Hey, you're in the lines." And I'm like, that bottom line is low, right? And
Hmm.
they prescribe them pills to sleep, and they prescribe them pills because they're having some mental depression issues. And I'm like, okay, so they wouldn't put you on any TRT. They didn't talk to you about diet. They didn't talk to you about caffeine intake. About nutrition, when to eat. When you're eating your last meal? They didn't talk to you about anything about that. No, they just gave me these pills. I'm like, fuck. I'm really down on the general medical care system that we have, because like those are all the things that you and what you do and in your field do cover. Where you really do need a primary care provider, if you're seeing one, to me is generally not enough. And overall, from my experience, not all, because I'm going to get a ton of hate mail about this, generally just pile pill upon pill upon pill and never work on the root of the problem.
Yeah, that's such a hot topic, and I hope you don't get hate mail, because I think we would probably agree it's mostly like the system is really the issue. Like, it's you're not talking about not intelligent people or people who don't care, who are, and I was in primary care. That's not really what's going on. Those people are there to help. They're very knowledgeable. In fact, they have a very broad range of knowledge. They often just don't have the time. Like, the system is not set up for them to spend 30 minutes or an hour one-on-one with everyone to go through these things. And then, maybe there's no ancillary help, nutritionists, things like that, like right on. So it's just not set up for them to have the time that's needed. And so I think they do the best they can. I think we all could do better, and we should strive to do better no matter what. I will say that. But I get a lot of referrals actually from primary care providers or specialists, who, like you said, they know what we do. They know we have the luxury, a little bit of time compared to if I'm billing insurance. So we don't do any. I'm not going to ask insurance what we can do, or bill them and wait 6 to 9 months for them to pay me back. So there is a cost to that, but we pay the cost now, or we're going to pay the cost later. Like, we say that all the time in our office, because you're going to pay now or later. It's just the way it is. But I digress. So like I get referrals all the time, because we can spend that time with people and really dive in to those issues, and get them addressed a little bit better, rather than just a superficial fix.
Well, I think you said
That's usually not a fix.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think you said it best. It's really not the person; it's the system. Because, and I could be misspeaking. One of my friends who was a primary care provider told me he had 6,400. It was 3,200 or 6,400 patients. And
It's incredible.
I could be wrong with that. And I mean, if you're a primary care provider listening to this and screaming at the computer right now, I totally get it, or your phone. But it was an astronomical, I'll just say that for sure, an astronomical amount of patients. And so when you go in and his first 7, patients have symptoms of the flu or a hangnail or, I don't know, whatever, pick it, that's a 15-minute slot. And he was explaining kind of how this works to me, that they're kind of rapid fire going through all of these patients because of how the system works. And I get it. I'm not pissing on the man. I'm pissing on the system when I'm talking crap about it. And
Yeah.
the pill popping thing is a big one for me. Here, take this, and take this, because it does. Diet and nutrition is hard. It takes time. Fitness takes time. And that's not a 15-minute conversation of dieting. You could spend 4 hours with someone pretty quickly in a week, because they're going to have more and more questions on diet alone. And that's, probably on the low end. I mean, how long would you say it takes somebody to learn nutrition? When I say learn nutrition, like learn and understand nutrition. If they came and saw you for a course, how long would that course take for you to feel confident somebody could leave understanding diet and nutrition, and what would the follow-up course look like?
So we do things in a couple of different ways, as I'm sure you've gathered by now. I keep saying that, but I have a lot of, like, we have some online resources that are registered dietitian designed. So like videos and cooking and, self-paced courses and online meal planners with grocery lists and all that stuff. So that's one thing that we can do. And if someone wanted to dive into that, I would say, like, 6 months to a year, they could become really confident with all the different topics that they would need to know about, and shopping and, creating healthy meal plans for them, for their family. That's one way of doing it. A lot of our patients are looking for a specific transformation. And so what we're doing with them is we're creating that. And then through the process, they do have to do a lot of, we can't like force the information on them. They have to develop an interest and understand why they're doing what they're doing. And that's a lot of what Nick does, with coaching clients, where he's working with them usually on a weekly basis, and really diving into what they're doing, trying not to make these huge, sweeping, drastic changes, but making sure we're consistently, that's where the magic is, consistently hitting the most high yield items, which usually the first thing is honestly protein. So hydrating, getting a specific protein goal. We use their in-body data and their activity and training program, whatever their situation is. We use that to figure out what those macronutrient numbers should look like: carbs, fats, proteins. We usually just stick with protein not first, and that works really well. So a lot of times we're just going back to really, really foundational stuff rather than just bombarding with, like, now you're going to become a nutritionist and learn all of these details. We got to really just start back with the basics.
Well, and like you said, what you offer, like, what would you suggest somebody that's like literally kindergarten level nutrition, trying to change their lifestyle, what to put in the fridge, everything else? I mean, what would you suggest to them? Timeline to book with you guys. First hit kind of the online stuff, and then go one-on-one with the nutritionist.
Yeah, I would say initial consult, just to get an idea of the overall situation. And then that type of person is just motivated, but just really needs a lot of guidance. 3 to 6 months of coaching is probably going to be a really great start for them. We do not charge, in fact, we probably don't charge enough for our coaching. The time that we spend with people, we'll spend the time that we need to spend with them. They're in constant contact with us. So it's kind of our foundational program. That was always important to us to offer something like that, because it's sort of the most important piece of the puzzle. All the pieces are important. We're very much about providing everyone advantages from every angle that we can. So whether that's hormones or weight loss medications or nutrition, or maybe it's fitness, maybe it's the devices that we can use, like anything that we can help with to give you an advantage and point you in the right direction and guide you down that road. That's what we want to do. So it's the nutrition training coaching is a great first step to dive into and just get started. And then we can add pieces from there.
Gotcha. Well, what else do you guys, you briefly mentioned it earlier, what else are you guys offering for, as far as people that can actually come, to the facility?
So we made a big jump from having really no technology to having kind of almost all but one device that this company, BTL Aesthetics, offers. And I tell people when I first heard about these, I was very skeptical. I thought they sounded a little bit like maybe something that would be almost like take advantage of the position that our patients are in, particularly weight loss patients. But I researched them, learned about them, I got to try them out. And now my understanding is that, like, these are technologies that we know are effective for what we're trying to do, and I'll jump into that in a minute. But it's just the difficulty is actually applying that to people. So this company is really cool, and they innovate, and they've got like tons of engineers on their staff. And so they've developed these devices where I can apply, for example, with M-Sculpt Neo. And the names are funny. People always laugh at the names, but M-Sculpt Neo is like kind of like a workout device. So I have these different applicators I can apply to different areas of the body and essentially get a workout done on a person without them doing anything. So most people are familiar with like a TENS unit or electrical stimulation. This is like that to the moon. It's high intensity electromagnetic stimulation. So we use radio frequency and muscle contraction to stimulate muscle and burn fat in those areas, but also we see visceral fat start to come off almost immediately when we do in-body scans. Strength, core strength, those are all things we can build with this device. Like I was trying to lift, and I have 3 kids, have separation of my abdomen, and so I'd go do a leg day and squat, and then for like 2 or 3 days I was just down with severe back pain. Sometimes I'd struggle to get out of bed, and so this device was integral in that process. Like you can reduce diastasis by about, I think the studies were 19% reduction. So it's not going to resolve it completely. It's not a surgical response, but now my core is fortified. M-Cella is a chair that you can sit on and strengthen the pelvic floor. So again, we know Kegels are great. Everyone's like, do your Kegels, squeeze like you're trying to stop the flow of urine is what a Kegel is. Men and women both should be doing those. But this device, I can get 11,000 of those done in 28 minutes. So now the bottom, my pelvic floor is strengthened, my abdomen strengthened, obliques, all of that. So anyway, these devices are pretty amazing. We've used them on people who had, calf atrophy, from a low back issue, like a spine issue. So it's not something that they're able to resolve, but this person is in the gym and doing incline walking, and we want to keep them safe. So we're able to kind of rebalance the calf muscles with the small applicators. Or a very good friend of ours had a very rare stroke incident, was hospitalized, totally just not sure what his outcome was ever going to be. You might find him on social media. I don't know. I shouldn't say his name because I'm not sure if he's comfortable, but we were able to use these devices to get him a little bit of an advantage and back in the gym and killing it. Like incredible. So people ask, do those things work? They sound crazy. They totally work. I'm happy to show people, demo them. Like we're very proud to have these. And I think a big part of it is we know who the right candidates are and how to package an entire program and not just be like, I'm going to slap these applicators on your abs and now you're shredded. Like it doesn't work like that. So, and there's others, aesthetics. I can dive into all of that if you want. I know probably we don't have time, but very cool technology we know work, but that I can apply and give people really natural aesthetic benefits, proactive, preventive, rather than waiting and having to do super intense treatments to help them feel like they look as good as they feel inside, essentially.
So when you say aesthetics, I mean, for example, and I'll get made fun of this, I'm starting, as I get older, getting bags under my eyes. So I was trying to like ice them, like whatever, that jade roller. If I just slept more, I'd probably solve a lot of problems. But anyway, and then a buddy of mine had told me, he's like, hey, there's a surgery that you can have. People use it all the time, but it was like $5,000 an eye, maybe $3,000 an eye. And it works. I mean, my buddy had the surgery and it took years off his life, but you're saying there's things you have there that are not, $6,000 to $10,000 preventatively for whether that be bags under your eyes or what. Like you kind of did a very broad stroke over that. Like what else are you offering there for preventative or whatever for aesthetics?
Yeah. So some of them are devices from that same company. So we have M-Face, which is actually like the RF and the electrical stimulation for facial muscles. We can do forehead, we can do cheeks, mid-face, and we can do the newest applicator is submentum. So we can treat the double chin area, whereas before, really you could do fat dissolving injections, or you can have surgery there, but there's nothing non-invasive, which is what all of these devices, one of the biggest features of them is they're totally non-invasive, pain-free, comfortable, and effective. So those are treating muscles in the face, skin in the face, and soft tissue in the face. They're all addressing like the root cause of the aging of the skin. Those things are very helpful. We have a couple others, we have a bunch of stuff, but we have Exion, which is radio frequency and microneedling, and that can be helpful sometimes around the eye area to treat, again, skin, fine lines, wrinkles, even little stubborn deposits of fat. Exion is, a lot of people may have heard of another competitor. It's called Morpheus 8. Exion's kind of like next generation, not painful. I don't need people breathing in nitrous to like be calm and deal with the pain. Very comfortable, single pass, and the needles don't go all the way in. It's the radio frequency goes the distance, and so it's just very comfortable treatment and customizable. So that's another thing. Exion HA is like this. It's like getting a hot stone massage. So I could use that on your face and improve circulation and treat your skin and get some skin tightening. I also have Phyton. So they're actually an American-made company, which we really like. They're out in California, and they've been around for a while, but they make a couple of devices, and one's called M-Joule, and it's got BBL and Moxie. And so this device allows me to use light treatments to treat, browns and reds in the skin texture irregularities. So we're able to really just like reverse aging of the skin. And I don't say that lightly, because anti-aging is not, I don't use that term very often with the things that we do, even though it's commonly used. But they actually have studied BBL, and it does have anti-aging properties of the skin cells. So that one's just like a solid foundation for everyone. And then Moxie is a cool laser that's like just really evens out skin tone and texture. So I guess what I would say is, in addition to like injectables, of course, so PRP injections or Botox, fillers, those are all things that we can do. We have just such a broad range of treatments that we can do based on the situation. So I usually try to package this specifically for the person. And yes, it can definitely be money saving. The point I will make is that, again, with us, if I think that, your under eye area or whatever's going on is best treated surgically, I'm going to tell you that. Like, I'd rather you save and get the definitive treatment that is best for you, rather than, do a whole bunch of things with me that are definitely helpful, but they're not going to get you the result you're looking for. So you can always expect that with us. But I also just point out, even if you do surgical treatments, you definitely still need to treat those other issues, or they will arise again. So if you're not treating the skin, if you're not staying out of the sun or using sunscreen or good medical grade skincare, if you're not building collagen and elastin and getting HA into the skin, hyaluronic acid, then you're going to still be a little bit underwhelmed by your results. So,
gotcha. Well,
trying to quickly go through, that's just like such a big topic. There's so much. Happy to talk with anybody about any of those things.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're getting close to an hour here, and probably the best thing is just get a hold of Jess. But before we hop off here, where can people give everybody the website again, whatever contact info, things of that nature before we get off here?
Yeah, so the website is Defiance health.com. And I think most things are on there. Our Instagram and Facebook are at Defiance Health. And everything's linked there. You create yourself a patient portal. It doesn't obligate you to anything. So I always encourage people to like sort of get started on the website. At the very top, it says new client portal. You can click that, make yourself a portal. And actually, I may make a different link for people in case they are like out of the area completely and they don't want to go through all of the forms. So stand by on that. I may make a specific link for people who just want a really brief consultation on their situation. But you can fill out forms. It just creates your patient portal, and you can message us directly in there. And it's HIPAA compliant. It's private. If there's sensitive stuff you need to ask about, you can feel totally confident messaging in there. You can book online. You can self-book if there's something you need and you don't see it on there, you can message us about that or call. So there's, tons of ways to reach out. The portal is best. And then our phone number is 719-480-2400. And you can call or text that number.
So I guess like whatever that kind of bringing this full circle, if you have questions, if you are feeling tired, if whatever, it's your body, right? And so even though you've abused it and not spent very much money on it for 20 to 40 years, in the end, I'm telling you, it is worthwhile to at least look into some of the different things that Jess has talked about, as well as probably locking in your diet a little bit more and figuring it out. And, for those who've read, like, on the TRT side that, it's, bad for you, or it's steroids or whatever other BS pops up. I can tell you, if you need it, it is certainly going to help you and is life changing. And so, don't listen to what other people say, just focus on you. So, after that, I really appreciate you hopping on here, Jess, as well as, helping me out through the years, not be a big, fat piece of shit and, getting on the road to recovery. Now I'm at 220 and 11.5% body fat, a week ago. So that's about as fit as I've probably, maybe I say fit, that's about the most muscle mass I've had at that low a percentage of body fat, in a while. And you have a lot to do with that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And I think I saw you I think you put that on your story, how lean you're looking, which is awesome. I love that.
I'm trying.
And I really want to take 1 second, because I know I don't speak for other people often, but I know that I can. And a lot of people would totally agree with me. Just thank you so much, Aron, for all that you do, because you really are such a positive, generous with your time, with your knowledge, with your skills, constantly just like giving back to everyone else. And I just think it's amazing what a legacy you have, and everyone really appreciates and loves you and respects you. So thank you for always doing what you do.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Well, cool. Well, have a good day, everybody. Get a hold of Jess, not me, because I'm not a dietitian, and I don't know shit about anything other than I just repeat what she told me. But yeah, thank you again for hopping on.
Awesome. Thank you. Talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.